let's take a look at Stephen Pampreen and his list at the Everwinter Assault ITC Major. Yes, this is a major. So my boy was jumping off the deep end of the pool today. So let me get rid of some more of these tabs because I think I had a million of them open right here. Yeah. Let's see. Shout out to the chat. I just erased that. So shout out to the chat. Anyways, anybody's out there? I'm just we are live in the chat. So if you're in there, let me get a whoa and ask any questions that you guys have right here because I actually just took down his events. That was hilarious. So we have people in chat. I wonder if 60 grots are too many. Maybe for anything other than Dread Mob, yes. So sorry guys, let me pull this up. I fat fingered and erased too much. But yeah, shout out. What I want to also say is there is a difference. I know it doesn't mean that it's not appreciated or that you aren't awesome anyways for doing very well, but doing well at a major is a significant feat. And I know that our Git here doesn't necessarily run to every single event all over the place and travel the nation. So great job by coming out and performing at this major, Steven. So let's see. And his list, I can just show you his list anyway, since we're here. We talk about his list while I pull this up. His list has some unique tech pieces, but stuff that has been hinted on here before and that I've said that people should consider looking into. And it would not surprise me that Steven would end up doing something like this, as he was doing this since Index Hammer when we first started touching base, which is using 20-man units of Orc Boy mobs, which is exactly what he ended up using here. But in this case, it was Snaggas actually. So let's take a look at his list. We have a Beast Boss as his warlord with the enhancement Mork's Cunning. Then he has another Beast Boss on foot, followed by a Big Mech in Mega Armor with the custom Force Field, custom Mega Blasta, and Power Claw, followed by the Big Mech, obviously enhancement that allows you to re-roll the hit roll. 2 Big Mechs with shock attack guns, and then a basic war boss on foot, followed by 2 20-man units of Beast Snagga Boyz. Whoa! I think that's awesome. So this was something that I typically suggested for like anti-Catans, when there was multiple Catans running around the meta and such. You could just pick up a Catan when you're near Gaz and 1 activation. But you can see on this list, he doesn't have Gaz. In this detachment, you can simply use 1 CP to pop lethal. That's freaking awesome. I've done it for 10-man units, haven't been doing it for 20-man units. So shout out to Steven. He has a 10-man unit of Storm Boys, which he very much says, I'll tell you, I'll spoil that right now. He said it's awesome. It's worth it. Then a 5-man unit of boys, followed by that 10-man brick of Flash Gitz, 2 minimum size unit of Grot, a 10-man brick of Nobz with Power Claws, and then we have 2 units of Tankbustas. He does have the Pulsar Rocket as the war gear option, and then the Nobz in both the units did have their smash hammers. He did not get a chance to smash anything with his hammers, sadly enough. And then he has a battle wagon with Ard Case and a cannon, followed by 1 basic truck. So shout out to Mr. Stephen Pampreen, and I do have his notes, and I did find it and pull it back up while we were yapping while I was messing up. So thanks for bearing with me. Shout out to our sponsors, the Baron of Dice, as they helped us do our Waaaghtaktiks dice. So shout them out. Check them out in description, 5% off in the discount because nobody likes taxes. And shout out to Baron of Dice. They allow us to do our paint competition. So thank you very much to them. So here we are. He went 4-1 and he ended up getting 11th place. So let's take a look at his first opponent, and then I'll take a look at his notes as well. So right away, went into Tyranids. See another pattern here, guys. You should expect to see Tyranids, Necrons, some form or 2 of Space Marines, and then probably like a Death Guard or Demons, right? As in like that Chaos variant you're going to end up running into. And I guess now you're going to end up seeing more Astro Militarm, right? And if you think I'm missing anything else, let me know in chat. So again, we have a Hive Tyrant, a Neural Tyrant, a unit of Gargoyles, a unit of Hormigaunt, Biovores, 5 Gene Stealers, 2 Lictors, a Neural Lictor, 2 units of Pyrovores, a unit of Raveners, 2 Exocrines, 2 Maliceptors, and then 2 Tyrannofax, both with Rupture Cannons to bring fear to any battle wagons. What I will say here is that the Neural Lictor plus the Shadow of the Warp ability is quite annoying for the orcs. It's not backbreaking usually, but you can accidentally have those games where you just like fail every battle shock on your go turn, and then that kind of sucks, right? So I'll pull up his notes real quick while you look at his list. So round 1, when he played against the Tyranid monster match, he had to take a 20-point penalty. That's why he ended up getting 75 points, because he was late to submit his list. So he had already practiced this out in expecting to see Tyranids, and it went about as much as he expected. The Tyranids didn't have enough killing power, and as long as you don't let the multiple not flash the multiple exocrines and Tyrannofexes all shoot at you, or something like the brain bugs all at once, like focus fire you, then they don't really kill enough. Not even of your flash kits with the Big Mech and Mega Armor, because that 4-up invuln really, really matters, guys. If you're talking about what my preference is, I think the Big Mech and Mega Armor, that extra price you pay for the 4-up invuln and reviving units, and also bringing a little bit of combat proficiency there, is definitely worth it. I greatly advise it, and in this case, Steven used it to kind of get the game kick-started. So that being said, he would just bring some guys back in when he got shot, and then the Snaggas did work as usual. So he said he did end up, that guy did end up taking his home objective, so he thinks he could have played better, but nonetheless, he felt like he had the tools to just take out Tyranids, and he proved that he could. So shout out to you. And then we move on. So let's see his second. Let's see his second matchup. Like I said, he got a 75, but he had 20-point loss, like from penalty. So then you go into his game 2. So game 2 is against Adeptus Mechanicus. So a lot of the times you can just end up having a hard time with Adeptus Mechanicus because you don't ever see it and you kind of becoming unfamiliar with its rules. So we have a Halo's Creed Battle Clade. Not really sure personally what that does. So we have one Skatar and Marshall. Very, very surprised to see only one character. They're so dang cheap and they actually matter for the army. That really caught me off guard. So we have a Skatar Ranger unit, 2 of them, and then 2 through 3 units of Vanguards, followed by a Scorpius Doom Crawler, Doom Rider, excuse me, Iron Strider Ballastaris, and then 2 Onager Doom Crawlers, followed by 2 Sky Stalkers, an Infiltrator Squad, 2 units of Rust Stalkers, 3 units of Disintegrators. These Disintegrators are the most effective gun platforms that they actually have. And then Stalkers are like 2 wound fast infantry that are kind of for skirmishing, like strength 5 and like -1 AP, I think. And then Stalkers have like the reactive move, I think, or uppy downy. And then so I would say that how he describes this game is not surprising. So in his notes, he said pretty much that on his go turn when he went out and after he had called the wall, his entire arm, the Admech player, did all the damage he could do. And between his invuln and Steven just giving stealth out to everything, knowing that Admech mostly just hit on 4s, meant that he really couldn't do anything. There was no damage really given to the orcs. He said he lost about a dozen boys with all the Admech's activation. So of course some bad dice rolls, but keep in mind Admech's hitting on 4s and giving them stealth, put them on their back foot. And Admech is kind of not in the spot, in my opinion, when you put a lot of pressure on them to kind of throw you off them as an orc player, and you can kind of just pick them up really effectively, especially when you have 20-man units of Snaggas and call the wall and they give strength 6 and give them strength 7 and just beat stuff up. You have the Devil to pick up the little vehicles. They don't have enough like screening, so he ran them over. 100-point win there. Shout out to Mr. Steven Pampreen. So we got round 3. And here's where it gets hot and spicy, because this is where he takes his first loss and only loss, where he goes into the Necrons again. We were talking about the Necrons today. Don't be surprised that we see them again. So we have the... What is this? Is this Scatterstar? Yeah, I want to point that out. Scatterstar. Of course, you guys got to see it. We have Emotech the Stormlord, followed by the Silent King, Scorpec Lord, and then Technomancer, followed by some Flayed Ones, a unit of Ophidian Destroyers, Scorpec Lord, a Locust Destroyer Brick, a small 2 individual Locust Destroyers, 6-man unit of Wraiths, and then 3 Doomsday Arcs again. You're going to see a Silent King, you're going to see Flayed Ones, you're going to see Doomsday Arcs. That's constantly just kind of the thing we're seeing here. Yeah, Scatterstar really does great damage, and they also have some good defensive buffs. So let's take a look at Steven's notes for this one. He said he ended up going first on Scorched Earth, as in Steven went first, and it was layout 1. He said he has been prepping for this, detachment and pretty much this exact list, so he was feeling pretty good. He pretty much traded Grotz for space early, and he was trying to, get in a position to have the Wraiths commit in a spot of the field that he wanted them to. And then put them in like a fantastic place so he can actually destroy them, but not really make them like in the way of the rest of his army. Turn 3 is when he called his WAAAGH. He ended up killing 2 Doomsday Arc, 6 Locust Destroyers, 3 Scorpex, and 6 Wraiths with the Chromomancer on that one turn. In exchange, the Necron player really only killed the Grotz and some other, damaged some other units. So he was left with like the Silent King and some destroyers, Flayed Ones, this Emotech Stormlord. But he ended up, getting a Doomsday Arc to Steven's natural expansion, his safe expansion. and Ophidians got to his home objective. So it ended up flipping the points by a big point flip there and causing him to kind of fall apart. And he ended up not really managing his time as well, which I can totally see. When you're running 20-man units of guys and you're meticulously moving them around the field in the way that Steven ends up showing us, and we go over in our how to move boy mod videos, you can definitely end up kind of burning time on that. It's really tedious, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. That can definitely happen in a stressful game, but great job nonetheless. He said that it was disappointing that he ended up losing there, but nonetheless, he knows that there was a tough game and he just did the best he could. And that's a great way to approach it. So shout out to you, Mr. Steven. They're strong. They're tough. And like Brandon's saying right now in chat, Scatterstar really hurts. And right here, Brandon's been here the whole time. You find out that when an army can hit and wound on 2s and get rerolls of 1, it's kind of broken. Yeah, dude, it's really broken, as you said, really broken. So yeah, Brandon had to experience that as well. Nothing to be ashamed of. That just happens in the meta. If anything, it'll stop us from getting nerfed right away because we're not abusing things, because Necrons are keeping us from winning everything, even though we're beating up everybody else. I don't know. So 67 points there for Mr. Steven. Still respectable. Sure. So then we move on to game 4. Game 4, it was Adeptus Custodes. So we have the dreaded triple blade champions, followed by triple wardens, 2 prosecutors, and then witch seekers, followed by 2 grav tanks, and then a rhino and Inquisitor Draxus, because she can lead this guardian squad that's here and make them good against Xenos as well. So in this matchup, for his notes, he did say that the game was extremely cagey. And he didn't really get the conclusion that he wanted, just because they were both kind of running out of time from playing too cagey. The fact that these blade champions can like pop advance and charge and kind of run you down, and then both of these guys are like, oh my gosh, like when am I going to pop the Feel No Pain? When am I going to go and call my wall turn? What I will say here is Tankbustas feel good. That the fact that you can do a combined force assault here, and the snag is getting to that good strength threshold of 7 means, on the wall turn you're doing significant damage, but you do know that they're Feel No Pain. So then they're playing KG back and forth, trying to like get hand in hand here, and who's gonna really be able to go on their own terms. So he said that he played too far back, and he think because, like I said, the blade champions, and I don't blame you for that, dude, because in my personal experience, I underestimated, like taking them, oh, you're not going to make a 10-inch charge or whatever it was, and he totally made it with the blade champion, and it ended up ruining the game right away for me. So I get why you did it, and luckily he didn't take advantage like you said, but these are things that become problematic when you're playing against a bunch of like, we fight first and we can charge you across the battlefield. So I don't blame you for that. The multi-phase damage, as in you can do them on any activation. Like, sorry, you can have to do damage on both shooting and fighting. Combined, what we call combined arms, is the way to go through Custodians. He felt like compared to other detachments, Taktikal Brigade really shined here, and he managed to eat 2 units full bricks of wardens when it was his go turn, when he actually went. So that's pretty sick. And yeah, it seems like he did put one of the wagons full of snaggas, and then the other one he would put on the table or on reserves. And remember, Steven, he's out for coaching. So he said you meet him as Pampreen at Outlook.com, or he's in our Discord as well. So you can talk to him directly. He's all over the place, and he's, good at explaining what the mindset was. But yeah, definitely having those snaggers in the wagon. He plays pretty safe with them. And he takes advantage of reserves in games as well. He's really good at doing that. So not surprised at all. What was I saying? Okay, so yeah, those were the end of his notes for that custodian game. So really they both kind of, it was a time KG back and forth. Not the, we all have those games where you're like, it's not my favorite performance, but hey man, it's a win to win. Great job. So then we move into his last, but certainly not least of his games, his last game, into Aeldari. So we have Atark, Wayleaper, Avatar of Cain, Farseer, Fugan, Janzar, and then Cassandras. We have Guardian, Defender Brick, 2 Falcons, Fire Dragon, Howling Banshee, Shining Spears, 2 minimum size unit of Shroud Runners, unit of Striking Scorpions, Swooping Hawks, and then 2 Warwalkers. So really we have like the perfect tools to just destroy these guys and run them down. And that's kind of what his notes represent as well. He said, Eldar, nothing fancy. Was just old school Eldar. This mission was Hammer and Anvil. Just a horrible matchup for my opponent. He had to leave his deployment to do anything, and Storm Boys just ate his lunch when he did. Yeah, because Storm Boys can advance and charge at any time. And the fact that these guys are, pretty soft and really rely on their mobility means that you can always start with Storm Boys, hurts them greatly. When they do commit, they usually want to use stuff like Warwalkers and the Avatar to hold you back, but Orcs just eat that with Beastbosses, especially with the 20-man unit of Snaggas. The Avatar has no chance of survival. once you pop lethal, or if you just decide to go all in with your dev wounds and volume. So yeah, great job by Mr. Steven there. He ended up winning that game. 100-point win right there. So to end 4-1 at number 11, he had 74, 167, 60, and then 100. So one last look at his list. Waaaghtaktiks Brigade, double beast bosses, one with Mork's Cunning, Big Mech and Mega Armor, then Mech Captain for reroll to hit. We have 2 Big Mech with shock attack guns, and then a War Boss. 2 20-man units of Snaggas, a 10-man unit of Storm Boys, and then a 5 unit of Storm Boys. Flash Gitz, 2 units of Gretchen, a 10-man unit of Nobz, and then 2 units of Tankbustas plus the wagon and the trucks. Last but not the last kind of notes and opinions was he feels like dropping the Nobz for more just what he called trash. Nobz don't really have their place right now in the meta because you're either extremely tough or like a lot of chaff. And then if you're somewhere in the middle, we have other tools now that can deal with it. What we're speaking of is mostly Tankbusters right now because you can reach out and deal with it. That weird like middle ground units, which feels good. But that means Nobz don't really have their place and they're a little pricey for that. There's damage reduction. There's still stuff that has good armor saves against them and deals with their toughness is not good enough. So he feels like dropping them. He just wants more stuff. And he needed more action monkeys. And then he said 10-man units of Storm Boys were awesome. Not sure if he thinks he's going to need more of those, but nonetheless, he wants just more stuff. In that case, I think 5-man units of Storm Boys work or individual mechs work, maybe even just trucks. Also, Tankbusters, guys. Tankbusters work because giving them +1 hit in this detachment means they work against infantry. That's something that can't be understated. When you're looking at other detachments and using Tankbusters, even like Dread Mob, something has stealth, and Dread, these guys are essentially like, oh, I don't really do anything anymore. Even if I'm hitting vehicles on 5, it's just not what it is in this detachment. So take advantage of that. I think in reality, Tankbusters is actually ahead of the line than Breaker Boys. And I think a lot of people are super excited about Breaker Boys just because it was a completely new data sheet line. But the more we see is that Tankbusters are really finding their groove, especially in this detachment. And I think they're optimized here. And I see something like Breaker Boys optimizing like Warhorde or whatever. And I really, really love the Big Mech and Mega Armor. I can't underappreciate that enough in this meta where people want to shoot at you and kind of stand in position. You can either use them to draw out units. You can use them to overwatch units. You can use them to chip something that's durable down from a variety of different matchups before you finish it off with like a beast boss or a gas unit. They can combine arms better than most units in our entire codex because they can get up to strength 7 with 40 punches, and then they're 40 shots of lethal sustain. Then if their punches could be in gases or get lethals as well, and you can pop a C-Freeze for sustain. And the Big Mech and Mega Armor as a power claw, then you can also fall back and shoot and charge. So it becomes ridiculous. You having an invuln really does matter because you can get more mileage out of that unit, which is something orcs aren't really used to. And I really think you should take advantage of that. Let's keep in mind that battle wagons seem to still be finding their place in a world where people think they could bop battle wagons quite easily. So a lot of the time you're using it just because you're trying to hide 20 boys, though. It's not that you're relying on their durability. That's why you're using one and you're really just hiding up on the terrain. A battle wagon's still easier to kind of hide and set up, evenly from line of sight and ain't firing lanes by just blah blah boys, or especially if it has 2 leaders. So a lot of the time you're using a battle wagon just as a big staging bunker. So shout out to Stephen Pampreen, and thank you for the notes. Whoa! For the Waaaghtaktiks Brigade. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!